So this right here is the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 in a cool little cage. It's called an Explorer cage. On the surface, you might think this is just like every other action camera on the market, but there's a lot of cool photocentric features with this camera. And now that it sort of feels a little bit more like a camera, I thought it would be a great opportunity to test it out. Insta360 got in touch with me and asked me to take this setup out as part of my tiny camera series. So thinking at it as an everyday carry photo camera first rather than an action camera. And I thought that was such a really cool concept. They've sent me the kit and they have not got any say in this video aside from giving me the cool concept to work with. So thank you to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. But as ever, all thoughts are my own. And my favourite thing about this cage, aside from it being super comfortable and really well engineered, is listen to the shutter button. It's so nice! That turns the camera on. I should have thought of that. So this little setup has been so grabbable and convenient in the last few weeks. Those are the words that I keep coming back to. You can just pick it up and just everything you need here is ready to rock. You can take a photo quickly, you can start recording quickly. It's really, really easy to use. It even has a cute little flip-up screen, which is quite unconventional for an action camera, and it's got more uses than you would think, which I shall demonstrate later on in this video. So this camera, believe it or not, has a 50 megapixel sensor. So you can go out and take really high resolution photos with it, but that's not the mode I've been using the most. In that mode, in the 50 megapixel mode, you have different lens profiles. So you have Mega, which is my favorite, you have D-Warp, you have Ultra, and you have Linear, which is more of a sort of more traditional focal length, but all of them are still quite wide. And I think the problem with action camera photography is it gives you that action camera look because it's very, very wide angle. Well, sometimes wide angle is good, but sometimes you don't want it all the time. So if you take it out of 50 megapixel mode and stick it in 12.5 megapixel mode, which is still pretty respectable, it's comparable to many Micro Four Thirds cameras. Here, on top of all the different focal lengths that I've just talked about, you have a 2x crop. So here are some examples. Using Mega View as the wide angle and then the 2x crop, you can see that you suddenly have a lot more versatility with this camera. You can change the focal length and still get a really high megapixel image. And of course it shoots RAW and JPEG as well, so you can edit this quite decently in post. It is a smaller sensored camera. It's a 1/1.3 inch sensor, which is still pretty decent, but don't expect like huge amounts of push and pull in the RAW files, but you can color grade them and add your own specific looks onto them. You may not have noticed this on first glance, but this lens is actually co-engineered with Leica. It's a Leica branded lens, and inside here you have a number of different photo profiles as well, including 2 Leica profiles, which is Leica Vivid and Leica Natural. So one thing that I will say is I've been using this in quite bright conditions today, as you can tell. Sunshine, what a lovely treat. Even though the screen is really bright, sometimes it is a little bit of a pain to see what you're doing on very bright days. And that's just a tiny camera not having an EVF problem, which is quite common with a lot of smaller form-factored cameras. But I did think it was worth mentioning. One thing I've noticed so far is, yes, we have linear mode and we have a 2x punch in both photo and video, which is wonderful. But even at its most punched in, I believe it's an equivalent focal length for around 32 millimeters, which is still a little bit wide for my preferences, but it's certainly a heck of a lot better than your average action camera. Another fun thing that this camera can do is you can also use hand gestures and voice gestures to set it off. So if you are taking a photograph, you show a peace sign and it takes a photograph. So the other hand gesture it has for video is just a flat palm. So you can just hold your hand up like that and then it'll just start recording. I've found in my experience that that one's takes a little bit longer to figure that one out versus the peace sign, but it's still very handy. Voice control, I imagine, would be very handy for the average user, but as I am reviewing / showcasing this camera, the phrases that you need are start recording, stop recording, and take a picture. And the chances of me saying that in conversation when I'm reviewing it is very high. You can take a photo, you can start recording quickly, so I've turned it off. So the cage is made in collaboration with Tilter, and I think it's incredibly well engineered. If you want the hand grip on, you can take out the little hidden key thingy inside the grip to screw the grip on and off. The shutter button attachment is just inside the hot shoe on the cage. When I was looking at this, I was like, okay, that's cool. But what happens if I need to change the battery? Well, they've also thought of that. So on the bottom, there's just a little clip and the whole thing just opens up and you can take the battery out very easily without unscrewing the grip. Because this is a fixed aperture lens, as most action cameras are, I would highly recommend the ND filters. I have a Freewell set and they just slip on the front. They're so cool. I've got like an ND 32 on, I think, at the moment. Oh, hey! Makes a very big difference. So the three objections that I usually have about shooting photography with an action camera, which is the shutter button's usually not very satisfying, they're usually very hard to hold because it doesn't have a grip, and the wide angle lens screams action camera. This setup has changed and evolved and fixed all of those things, which is quite interesting. One thing I love about Insta360 cameras, and this one is no different, just making sure I'm not getting run over by bicycles, is there's a freeform mode which shoots in 4:3. This means you can very easily crop into a vertical version and a horizontal one as well. Super handy for content creation. Let me just take off the grip because there's another way that I quite like shooting with this. So you just unscrew the grip, keep the shutter buoy on, and you can use the tilt screen up like this. And now we can shoot from the hip and it's actually still quite nice. So there's a couple of different ways that you can hold this camera. So obviously the default way is to keep the grip on, but the benefit of just keeping the cage on is you have quick release mounts on both the horizontal axis and also vertical. So you can shoot both. You can put it on your Mantis pod or whatever, horizontally or vertically, just using the cage. I have to say, having a flippy screen psychologically makes me feel like I'm using a real camera a lot more. I think it's something that we associate with bigger vlogging cameras, and it's so handy to just have a full view of what the camera's seeing. In terms of vlogging, it's quick, it's seamless, it's pretty incognito. I'm walking around quite a busy place and I don't feel too much like a tit. And so far I'm enjoying the experience very much. It seems very seamless and very well thought out. So photography is actually pretty good, but I wanted to cover some of my favourite things around the video side of it as well. There are just some things that I've found and things that this camera can add to my life personally, and maybe yours too. If you're out and about in a pinch and you want a POV shot, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. You can, and I have. You can use this as like a little mouth grip. Obviously be careful, don't bite down on it, but it works in a pinch. Try doing that with a GoPro. You can't do that. The second thing you can do is angle it back on the ground, and then it becomes its own sort of mini tripod and it can look up at you. If you just have a flat base, it's pretty unusable unless you have accessories, but with the screen, you can lean it back a bit and you do have a little tripod built in. One thing that really impressed me, and it's something that I wish more cameras would have, and I don't even know how it quite works, is if you have a scene where a light is flickering, all you need to do is hold the camera at the scene for a couple of seconds and it will fix the flickering. Automatically, it'll sync the shutter speed so that there's no flickering in the scene. Even when I was using the Osmo Pocket in Japan, some of the lights behind me were flickering quite a lot. So to have this feature built into this, you just have to remember to like wait a couple of seconds before you start recording. I think is such a cool feature. And I have to say, the 4K 120p slow-mo really impressed me. As with most action cameras, these modes work better in brighter conditions because the shutter speed's going really fast to keep up. In the right environments, it works very well indeed. And the stabilization is incredible as well, not just for when I'm walking about and talking to camera, but if I want to do some fake gimbal shots, it's not shabby. It's not shabby at all. We came to Amsterdam for King's Day, and it's a good old European festival. It's lots and lots of fun. One thing I really loved was having this camera on a Mantis pod. I could get some group photos really easily. I just stuck the 5-second timer up, lobbed the camera in the air, and off we go. And just being able to walk through these busy streets and getting like a higher up angle with the wide angle lens was pretty cool as well. It's come in very handy, and it's been very versatile so far for both photo and video. For video, most of the time I shoot in standard. It gives you enough information that you could just leave it as is, straight out of the camera, but if you want to push and pull it slightly, you absolutely can. So for video, I keep it simple, either in standard or tinkering with the Leica profiles, because why not? And for photo, it doesn't matter nearly as much because I'm shooting RAW and JPEG, but I actually really like some of the creative filters built into this. It is quite cool. Now watch this. How do I demonstrate this? Okay, I'll point it at myself. This one blew my mind. This is called 360 degrees horizon lock. So you should be able to see me, and as the camera moves, I should be staying dead center. And I should record that probably so that I can stick it next to me and you can actually see it if the screen isn't playing ball. But as you can see, I'm going nowhere, right? And on the surface, that might seem like a gimmicky thing, but I've found a great use case for it. I'm out and about taking pictures and I want to get some POV stuff, right? And I can shoot landscape. But then if I turn myself horizontally, usually this footage would be sideways and unusable, but with the 360 mode on, it stays exactly where you need it to be and you don't have to worry about it. So what do I think? I think there's a lot to love with this tiny camera, and I've surprised myself with how much I'm reaching for it time and time again, particularly when it's set up in this cage. The battery life is incredibly good, and the built-in microphone is really good as well. I really appreciate that there's a windshield on this already. For photography, it actually really pleasantly surprised me. Being able to get these small cameras in places that are tricky, like sticking things higher up on Mantis pods, for example, to get crowd shots, super handy. Would this be someone's everything camera? Potentially you could get away with it, but for me personally, I think these cameras shine when they're someone's supplementary camera. Perhaps you have a photocentric everyday carry that you just love the experience of, and perhaps you want to document it. Perhaps you just want to have better video and you want something to go alongside it. Perhaps you want something that you can just grab and sort of take photographs with quickly when you're on holiday, and something that you can pass to the kids and know that they won't break. There's loads and loads of use cases for this. I think it's really so much more than an action cam. I think the term action cam for this really does it a disservice, to be honest, because there's so much more going for it, in my opinion. I think, you know, be spontaneous, be creative with it, stick it where you can't stick normal cameras, go have fun with it. I find it a very inspiring piece of gear. Let me know what you think in the comments, and check out some of these videos next where I go through some of my other favorite tiny tech.